The new U.S. president promising to withdraw the country from the Paris Climate Agreement reached in 2015 as he pushes for an agenda that promotes American fossil fuels. He has also made moves to cut hundreds of billions of dollars in green infrastructure funding in the United States. CNA's Elakeyaa Selvaraji spoke with several experts to try to understand the potential impact on climate policy and the global environment.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good.
When Donald Trump won the U.S. presidential election last November, Republicans were excited. Democrats were disappointed. But people around the world had mixed emotions. President Trump's second term clearly brings renewed threats to progress on confronting the climate crisis. And that's because he has repeatedly called climate science into question. His return to the White House is already meeting expectations.
I'm immediately withdrawing from the unfair, one-sided Paris Climate Accord ripoff. The United States will not sabotage our own industries while China pollutes with impunity.
Pulling out of the Paris Agreement is a long procedural issue. It will take almost a year, I understand, which means that the US will still be a part of the COP30 discussions due to happen in Brazil in November. But of course, it remains to be seen just how engaged the nation will be. The US will not lead to report on its own greenhouse emissions anymore, which is a big one. And secondly, it will put a downward pressure in terms of international climate finance provision by the US. Its own responsibilities there will cease if he does, take this action. And what that means is that then the financing available to the developing economies to deal with climate change themselves and to try and adopt cleaner energy measures for themselves will now become much less. Consider that in the previous Trump administration, the average allocation towards international climate finance provision was about $600 million US, as compared to the Biden administration, which was averaging about $11 billion US towards the end of his presidency.
It's very different from 2017. I mean, the world has moved on, climate has moved on, and one of the things that we've really seen since 2017 is the energy transition has really gathered pace. So the economics around things like renewable energy are very, very different. Solar energy now is called the cheapest form of energy in history. The problems we're facing now on climate are different in the sense that the energy transition is happening. The big issues are around siting, permitting. How do we get renewable electricity onto the grid? But I think the biggest thing is, the US is one of the world's biggest emitters, and it's really critical that the US is in the climate fight. And we know there's going to be a pause on that for the next 4 years at least.
And that includes a pause in building up renewable energy.
And we will drill, baby, drill. And we're going to be drilling in a lot of other locations. And the energy costs are going to come way down. They'll be brought down to a very low level.
President Trump has also laid out a sweeping plan to maximize U.S. oil and gas production, including by declaring a national energy emergency and stripping away regulations. Plus, he's revoked an order that had set a 50% electric vehicles target for 2030. These actions threaten to shake most of what former President Joe Biden built.
He has promised to reverse many of Biden's climate change initiatives, especially the investment in wind and solar. On wind, he has made very bizarre statements like it's killing birds and whales. He's also spoken about that there's some giant faucet in Canada which is being turned on and off. So all of these statements actually make it likely that he's going to be extremely chaotic, and he actually always pushes ahead with his promises. And finally, he also wants to be known as the crypto president. So he's going to push into cryptocurrency, and as we know that is actually extremely energy intensive. So from the rest of the world's perspective, they're going to shake their heads and then stop taking the US seriously. So this will push back all of the climate change initiatives considerably for 5 years at least, if not more.
The impact of President Trump's actions now and moving forward has put climate experts on edge.
President Trump also said that the US will do whatever it takes to maintain its leadership in the AI race. And judging from the people who were sitting in the front row of his inaugural address, all the tech moguls, clearly there's going to be huge pressure in terms of energy, and which will mean that fossil fuels, mining and digging, baby digging is going to happen. And that will put further pressure in terms of the US's own energy emissions.
The situation is not all gloom. Global surveys suggest that people around the world want more climate action. And a number of nations and regions remain, for now, committed to tackling what many have called an existential crisis. China, for example, is the world's largest producer of renewable energy and a leader in climate technologies. So progress on this international issue might be hampered, but not halted altogether. The debate, however, may take yet another divisive turn. Elakeyaa, Selvaraji, CNA, Singapore.